This is the Life by Design with Angela Weiss podcast, episode 13, Tuesday edition, Leaving the Waiting Room. Welcome back to the Life by Design with Angela Weiss podcast. That's me. I'm a nurse practitioner, author, and someone who believes deeply that life isn't something we just wait through. It's something we should intentionally be living. Before we start, I might make mistakes. I'm probably not going to edit them out, although I did just redo this whole video because I noticed I had like some crumbs on my face from a bite of cake that I had. So I almost didn't, but I did. Anyway, here we are, the space where things haven't come together yet and the answers haven't arrived yet and the relationship hasn't happened or the opportunity hasn't happened. It's the waiting room. You're left in that in-between. For some of you, this has been a season, and for others, it's been much longer than you expected. And today we're going to talk about something a little different. We're going to talk about when it's time to leave the waiting room, what that looks like. So the waiting room, it's not just a place, it's a state of mind, a state of being. It's where you pause your life, hold your breath, put things on hold because you're waiting for something or someone to happen. And sometimes the waiting room is necessary. It can be a place of reflection or healing, learning, becoming. But it was never meant to be permanent. You weren't supposed to stay there forever. There's a shift that often happens where at first you're waiting, or you think you're just waiting, but over time you're actually just choosing to stay. You're staying. You're staying in uncertainty, indecision, hope without movement. And it begins to sound like, I'll move forward when, I'll start when, I'll feel better when. And that moment keeps moving farther and farther away, more out of reach. And your life stays paused. People don't stay in the waiting room because they're lazy. They stay because they're afraid of choosing the wrong thing. They're holding on to what could be. They don't want to let go of what they imagined. They're waiting for certainty. They just don't know how to make the next step. Sometimes they're waiting for someone else to make the decision for them. And yeah, it can feel safe there because when nothing changes, nothing is risked, nothing is fully lost. But over time, that costs you. It costs energy, time, self-trust, opportunities, people moving on, and slowly you begin to shrink your life around the waiting. Leaving the waiting room is not always dramatic. It doesn't mean everything has to be figured out to go. It doesn't mean that you're not scared. It means you stop waiting for something outside of you to give you permission to live. It means you choose to move forward. Even when there are no guarantees, no certainties, you have no idea what's coming next. It's moving. Sometimes the thing that you're waiting for is not coming in the way that you hoped. And staying longer won't change that. But leaving creates space. Leaving the waiting room might look like making a decision you've been avoiding, redirecting your energy, letting go of what isn't choosing you, building a life that is not dependent on an outcome. It's not giving up. It's reclaiming your life. It's redefining your life. It's taking control of your life. And I want to speak to the person who feels this right now. If you're staying in the job, wondering if you should make a move, questioning a relationship, thinking about starting something new, feeling that pull to take a leap in your life. There will come a time when it's your turn, when the door opens and you're next. And the question won't be, am I ready? The question will be, am I going or am I staying, regardless of if I'm ready? Because you can't live your life standing in the doorway. If you stand in the doorway too long, you let in a draft. You stay uncomfortable. You're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, not fully in, not fully out. And that in-between space and the waiting will wear on you. So at some point, you have to stop sitting on the fence. You have to stop standing in the doorway. You have to make a move. You have to feel it. You have to move forward. Not because it's guaranteed, not because it's easy, but because you were never meant to stay stuck in the waiting room, in the in-between, in the door, on the fence. You were meant to choose. You were meant to go on. And if you're listening and you know you're still sitting in the waiting room, that doesn't make you weak. It means there is something you're not ready to release yet. But I want you to be aware, because staying unconsciously, it keeps you stuck longer than is necessary. So ask yourself, what am I waiting for? What is it costing me to stay here? What's holding me back? What am I so afraid of? You were never meant to live your life in the waiting room. You were meant to go there for a season, for a time, to learn in it, to grow in it, to eventually leave it. Not because everything is certain, but because you are ready to live again. And oftentimes, everything that we're wanting is on the other side of that door. We just have to take the steps. We just have to follow the path. We can't keep ourselves in this in-between waiting room. We can't keep ourselves in this pause. We have to make a decision. We have to move forward. Life doesn't get any better unless we take the steps to make it better. Nothing changes if nothing changes, right? We've heard that before. I would rather work towards building the life of my dreams and fail than have had to say, I don't know if I could have done it or not. I was too afraid to try. And that's a lot of things in life, isn't it? This episode somehow ended up being shorter than I anticipated, but I guess that's okay because it doesn't necessarily take lots of words to get the point across. So as we close out this series on the waiting room, I want you to hear this clearly. Leaving the waiting room is not the end. It's the beginning of a different kind of work. Because once you start moving forward, you're going to come face to face with two things: how you should show up in your relationships and how much you've been carrying. Because the way that you're feeling inside your mind about the choices that you're making affects the way you show up in every relationship of all kinds, whether it's romantic, friendship, parent, child, or work. It's going to affect it. So as we move into what's next, we're going to start having those conversations. On Tuesday, we're going to begin driving. See, there we go. I messed up on the word. We're going to begin diving into attachment patterns. And boy, do I have a lot of information for that and several books on Amazon about attachment theories. When attachment styles collide, fearful attachment, secure attachment, avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, and more that I'm currently working on. Anyway, on Tuesday, we're going to discuss how you connect, how you pull away, why certain relationships feel so intense or so difficult to leave. Because a lot of what keeps people in the waiting room, it's not just the situation, it's the pattern. And understanding that changes everything. Then on Thursdays, we're going to shift into something just as important: burnout, pressure, overgiving, and what it looks like to finally give yourself permission to stand down. Permission to Stand Down is another book that I have on Amazon. Because here's the truth: you can leave the waiting room and still exhaust yourself trying to prove something, fix something, or hold something together. And that's not the life that you're meant to build either. So we're going to talk about what it looks like to move forward without losing yourself, without burning out, and without carrying everything alone. The next phase is about understanding your patterns, supporting your capacity, not pushing harder, not doing more, but doing it differently. So, if you've been here through this series, stay with me because we're just getting started. Now, if this podcast today has been helpful to you in any way, I would love for you to hit the like, share, follow buttons. If you know someone that could use it, share it with them. You can follow me on social media at Angela Weiss Author on Instagram, on Facebook at Life by Design Press, on LinkedIn professionally, Angela Weiss. I want to remind you that this podcast is not a substitution for mental health help. And listening to this podcast does not create a provider relationship with me. If you are feeling in a crisis, please text or call the National Suicide Crisis Line 988 or 911. I want to thank you again for being here with me today, for taking the time to listen, to take the time for yourself, because hopefully you'll learn things in this that will carry you through. I really appreciate you. And take what has been helpful, leave what doesn't help at all, and keep living your life by design. I'll see you next time.